Hello, everybody. I am Fabian Rodriguez, and this is Pickleball. No Rick with us today, but very excited for a special guest that we have, Nico, the Lefty. If you don't know Nico, I'll give you a quick bio here. Nico left a corporate strategy career in tech to go all in on pickleball and hasn't looked back. He is now a full-time content creator, co-host of the Pickle Pod with friend of the show, Zane Navratil, a duper master instructor. We'll dive into that. And a 5-0 player on a good day. His words, not mine. Love him or hate him, he says what everybody's already thinking and keeps pickleball honest, real, and actually fun. He's on a mission to grow the game of pickleball through unhinged advice, uncomfortable truths, and making it relatable for the rest of us. Nico, welcome to This is Pickleball.
Thanks for having me. The bios are always like the most cringe things for me to listen to because I know, I'm trying to help out with who I am, but it's like the hardest thing to do is share actually, what you're about. But hopefully that makes sense. For me, I'm just hopefully here to, I always think, make pickleball, like bridge the gap between experts and noobs and, diehards and casuals. So that's me.
Yeah. And I think, again, thank you for being on the show, but I'll just start at maybe this is the wrong place to start, but we'll do it anyway. We can cut it out, right? It's our podcast. We can do whatever we want. Has anyone ever called you an industry plant?
An industry plant? No, that's funny. I've never got that. No, I don't actually even know exactly what that would be like. Has anybody ever called me an industry plant to you?
No, but the reason I bring it up is just trying to think about this conversation, how it's going to go today. It feels like there was a point in time where there was no Nico the Lefty, and then all of a sudden, all I got was Nico the Lefty. And now you've completely invaded all the spaces that are pickleball where I'm hanging out. So it's just like the rise has been incredible. So we want to get there. And I say it facetiously, industry plant, just because it happens so quickly. But for people that aren't maybe necessarily familiar with your story and kind of how you got to where you are right now, can you give us a background just on maybe your, growing up, sports that you played, and eventually how you got into pickleball?
Sure. It's like a complete arrogance and blasphemy and whatnot, but I was just like, when you're talking about like the before and after, I was like thinking about this is already bad way to start it. I was like thinking about Jesus. There's like the timeline of Earth started at zero. There was a ton of stuff that happened before, and then we keep time in track of when Jesus arrived.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, all right, there was this time before Nico and pickleball, and now there's this time after. And I'm not. Hopefully, the time after is at least as enjoyable, if not more enjoyable. But anyway, so Nico the Lefty. So I'll give you kind of my backstory. So the Nico the Lefty kind of brand persona whatnot started in like July, really. So it's been relatively like a short amount of time, but I've been around pickleball since like 2022. Mm-hmm. So I went to school in Utah. I went to BYU, and BYU is like known for like doing a bunch of like bizarro things. Like when everybody is, drinking, there's no alcohol on campus. So, all the other colleges are like drinking and partying and having fraternities and stuff. And we're like doing mocktails and playing Quidditch and ultimate frisbee and all these other like weird things, right? To stay entertained. And I left, quite some time before COVID, but I heard all my friends from Utah were like playing pickleball. So I was like, I don't know what this is, but like they know how to have a good time. So I should probably figure out what this is all about. So I asked for like a pickleball set for Christmas. So my parents actually got me a set of pickleball stuff. My wife got me a temporary net, which I never used because I found out there's actually courts. And yeah, went to a potluck mixer in Reno, Nevada, where I live. And I think for me with pickleball, it's kind of like that saying, like if you play 2 times for at least 2 hours over the course of a week, like you'll get hooked. Like that's kind of like the gateway drug. You just have to play a couple times in succession. And I did that. So I played like 3 times that week. And then basically I played every day since for like the next 4 years. So I've been playing pickleball, and I loved it, and wanted to figure out like how could I be more involved in the space, because I was working. I worked in corporate tech. I worked at a company called Intuit, the company that makes TurboTax and QuickBooks, and great company to work for, but like there's not a lot of purpose behind like tax software or accounting software, so it kind of got a little boring. But
You're telling me that's not your life's passion?
yeah, that they told me it was my life's passion when I worked there. They're like, there's nothing better than making people's lives easier doing taxes. And then I found out that they could have made it easier, for the last 10 years on people, but they don't, to make money. Anyway, Intuit's a good company. Or I don't know, maybe they're evil. I don't know, but they paid me well for like 10 years. It's where I met my wife. So I can't complain about my time at Intuit. But I was kind of like playing hooky from work as much as I could to play pickleball in the middle of the day and, leverage remote work. Anyway, I knew I was never going to be good enough to go pro, but I did want to make some kind of dent in the pickleball space. And so I actually created this account called Valencia Bros Pickleball. So if any of the super OGs are there is this like account that maybe has like 2,000 followers on TikTok and Instagram called Valencia Bros Pickleball. It was my brother and I. And my brother is also a very good pickleball player. His name is Gino.
He's actually your brother. Like
Gino's my brother. Yeah. So if anybody's seen Gino and like wondered like these guys look identical, it's because he is my brother. So and I saw one comment that said on his page, it said, Gino, you look just like Nico the Lefty, but with like a superhero filter on. And I was like, okay, I don't know how to take that. But he is my younger, more fit, more athletic brother. Anyway, so we had this channel that we kind of launched together, but he didn't really do much with it. And, it was kind of more like me driving. And then I just decided, hey, it'd probably be better if we created our own separate brands. Right. And so what happened was I just started tweeting a bunch, actually. And I was tweeting, and then Zane kind of was like, oh, hey, you should come on the pod. Right. Mm-hmm. And my initial thing was, I was like, no, I don't know enough about anything. And like, who am I to go on the pod? Nobody knows who I am. And literally nobody knew who I was. And I said, sure, why not? Let's do it. And then Thomas, the founder of the Dink, DM'd me like basically early July, end of June, while I was on vacation in Disneyland with my family. And he was like, hey, we should do more stuff together. So I said, okay.
Yeah. And this was like July of last year?
This was like July 2025.
Okay. Yeah.
So like what, 9 months ago or something like that. Yeah. He was basically like, I'm at Disneyland or Disney World with my family. And I just get this DM on Twitter. It's like, hey, we liked what you did. Do you want to do more stuff? Let's chat. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. And then I started thinking like, all right, what do I need to do? And so right when I got home from this vacation, I decided I would create the Nico the Lefty persona. So it's been since basically like July 4th, 2025 on, was when I transitioned from Valencia Bros Pickleball to Nico the Lefty. And yeah, the rest is history.
Wow. Okay. And so you said it kind of started off primarily just tweeting. Were you tweeting at players, just random thoughts that pop into your head? Like what was the nature of the tweets that then transitioned into the videos that we now see on Instagram?
Yeah, mostly it was like hypothetical stuff. Like so there's some people that tweet like actually relatively aggressive things at players. I didn't want to do that. And there were people that would just like live tweet everything that happened in a pickleball match, which I also did not want to do. But I wanted to do, like, I always thought like, oh, what happens if this happens? Those like hypotheticals where it's like 100 humans fighting against a gorilla or whatever, like, I'm just like, that's how my brain works all the time. And so I always thought about hypotheticals with pickleball, who would win in this situation? Or if you gave Carlos Alcaraz a month to train against Federico, could he beat him within a month? And then what really happened was, I think it was actually either pickleballers or Jared from the kitchen that was like, Annalie Waters is the most dominant player of all time, and she's more dominant than Serena Williams. And I was like, I hate this. I was like, I was like, this is going too far. And so like I had tweeted about it. Like, I think this is crazy. Zane said, I actually think that they're right. I think that Anna Leigh is more dominant than Serena. And that's when he said, let's get on the pod and discuss this specifically. So that was like the first conversation we had, was discussing that hypothetical. And then we started talking about like, who's the most athletic person in pickleball, who would win in a decathlon. And so like, for me, it was just always about like, let's just have more fun than the surface area that pickleball currently has. And I think that's what got a lot of traction, a lot of, eyes on the tweets. And then eventually, led to going on the podcast a couple times. We did the second time I went on the podcast, we had like an MLP awards, but instead of doing traditional awards like MVP, and most improved player, we decided we would do bizarro awards between like biggest crash out, most viral moment, best teammate, which was actually code name for worst teammate. So we kind of put Ben Johns on blast as teammate of the year for MLP. And those were the kind of things that I was talking about. And so I think initially, actually, there was like a love-hate relationship with Nico the Lefty. I think now either I've toned it down or people have like started to understand who I am and like appreciate me at least as a person, and not just this guy that wants to tweet the most hot take ridiculous stuff. But initially it was kind of like, who is this clown? And when I became the official co-host of the Pickle Pod, it was like there was a lot of positive stuff, and then there was like 10% that were like, this is the biggest mistake there has ever been, which was rough.
Well, I mean, and I think you're going to get that, right? Like the internet itself is just an unhinged cesspool of just like keyboard warriors, right? And those are probably the most vocal ones. So that's the stuff that really stands out. But in general, I think it's been a good addition to the podcast, right? I think it completely revived, and not to throw any shade on Zane and what they were doing with the Pickle Pod, but it was definitely kind of fading into the rest of what was going on in pickleball podcasts, right? So bringing in this energy that you have brought onto the show has really brought new life and revived it, in my opinion.
Hey, I appreciate that. And our goal, like we call it Pickle Pod 2.0, and somebody pointed out it's probably like 5.0, because they've had quite a few different iterations of the Pickle Pod. But I think for the prior like 6 months, it was very like pro sports, data driven.
Yeah.
We do recaps, and then we decided, let's talk about things that not just the people that are obsessed with pro pickleball like, but anybody that likes pickleball. And let's also break down pro pickleball in a way that is digestible to anybody at any time. And I think the goal was, if you watch our episode last week or you watch that same episode a year from now, it'll still be enjoyable to listen to, versus if you don't listen to this episode within the first 3 days that it comes out, it's no longer relevant. So that's our goal, is less breaking news and more evergreen experience in the pickleball world.
And I think even you guys mentioned this on an episode recently. It's just like, or maybe it was the KOTC guys, but it's like, if you don't get into it within the first 48 hours, it's dead, right? Like pickleball moves so fast that really that information is old as soon as it goes out. So if you're not on top of it, which I think Zane does a great job with what he's doing now, with just like, as soon as something drops, he's on it.
Oh yeah. I put out a video one time, because this was like 2 weeks ago, while he was in Vietnam. The news broke about Yola's lawsuit, right, over like 11 paddle companies.
Yeah.
And Zane was on vacation on a riverboat cruise with his wife. And I was like, there's still no way he doesn't get a video out within like 5 hours. And like 6 hours later, there's a video that's well done. Like, Zane is definitely the hardest working person in pickleball content, at least from like a pro perspective. He's got a team, but he himself is driving so much. And so like, I'm just amazed. Like, I don't have a whole pro schedule. I don't have like 5 other business ventures. I have my family that Zane doesn't have any kids, so I have, other priorities, but his ability to pump content is crazy. And to your point, like, I think he also knows, if I don't get these breaking news stories out within 5 hours or 24 hours, it's dead. And so that's why the podcast is completely different. It's like, hey, if we can wait, if we can talk about something that you could listen to for a whole month, like, then that's a win for us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll say one more nice thing, and then we can probably say something mean about him, just so that it's not like the Zane Glaze hour. But I think what he recognizes, and I think a lot of other pro players are recognizing this as well, and you kind of see this both with more traditional, like established sports like the NFL, NBA, UFC. You see players transition into this like commentator role, right, where they've got an exit strategy for when they're not playing anymore. And I think that he's recognized that very well, of like, hey, I've done really great playing professional pickleball, but this ride isn't going to last forever, right? Like, how do I set myself up to remain in the space, in the place that I love and that I know, and remain relevant and be one of the like featured voices that are there? So I think other players are recognizing that, and he does a really good job, if not the best job of kind of putting himself there.
Yeah, I think he's definitely the best at it. And I always give Zane a hard time, like, he has some extra time because Zane never makes it past Wednesday on a progressive draw anyway.
There it is. Yeah, there it is.
So, from Thursday to Sunday, we're all set. He's got some free time. He's not putting in the work on the court like Ben Johns. And yeah, to your point, he is still a good player, but he knows that, every year there are, 5-10 people that are getting better than him. And obviously his skills are at least, either at the top or declining. And so what is there to do? And I, kind of on a lesser extent, I'm the same way when it came to content. Was I already knew I was at like the peak. I was never going to go pro. And this is what's interesting to me about pickleball content, is there's like a lot of people that want to go pro that don't have it. I don't know how to describe. Like, I don't want to discourage anybody, but there's a lot of people, they decide, I want to make a name for myself. I want to make pickleball some kind of career person. I want it to be more than just like I go to the park and play.
Right.
And they think the only way they can do that is to go pro. And they like grind at like this 5.0 to 5.5 level. And I was like, all right, that's where I'm at. If that's this high, probably the highest I'm ever going to get. And there's like diminishing returns. Like, if I wanted to become a 5.5 or 5.6 pickleball player, I would have to spend so much time on the court, or I can try and do something else, right? Yeah. I can try and do commentary. I can try and provide value to the game in a different way. And I think that's what made me successful. Was I immediately was like, pro is out of the picture, right? And so, and luckily Duper just had that update where there's now a career high that you can see. And so my career high is 5.1. And I was like, look, so everybody knows at one point I was a 5.1. I can play 5.0 pickleball. I literally just I got a silver medal. If you saw on the pod, still keep it here, right here.
Congratulations.
5.0 mixed doubles. Thank you. Just last week. So it's possible. But like, I think my Duper right now is like a 4.5 or 4.6. Like, and I was like, that's probably, right. That little range right there. So how can you be successful without being a pro? And now Zane is going to have a similar situation. He was a pro, but how can he still be successful when he's not on an MLP team or playing PPA signed contracts?
Right. And I see, whatever, we'll move on. Zane, we love you. We're moving on. Enough about that. We're talking about Nico today. So, to your point there, I think what you're saying, if we can kind of like distill that down, it's like what you're saying for these folks and kind of anybody that's listening, it's like this, not analogy, but this saying of like the riches are in the niches, right? Or the niches, whatever, right? So like, look for those adjacent spaces that still keep you connected to pickleball, that necessarily aren't the grind every single weekend, go broke and in debt, trying to make it to every single PPA stop to try to go pro, because there's other things along the way that you can be doing. And I think part of this and what's really missing, and kind of what we're trying to fill here with This Is Pickleball, is the storytelling aspect of it, right? And I think they just announced their partners show that's going to be coming out on May 5th. That's going to be incredible. But there's just not enough of that, right? Like, when I think about the only other sport that I watch on a regular basis, which is the UFC, they do a really great job of storytelling for those fights every single week. There's like an embedded series, right? So if there's a championship fight, you've got a 9-minute YouTube episode that brings you into the lives of all of these fighters that you may not know anything about, but by the end of the week, you, at least myself, am so invested in what's going to happen that I have to watch, right? And I think that there are so many great stories in pickleball that needs to be done, you know, to grow the sport, to
Yeah.
make it more compelling to watch on television.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what I think about, so you like the UFC and these stories compel you, and you probably think, hey, I'm pretty good. I can be a storyteller or help people tell stories too, right? And so like there's this Venn diagram of like, you know, what I'm passionate about and what I'm good about and what I'm good with, you know,
Yeah.
what I'm good at, what I'm passionate about, and then kind of like what the people need.
Yeah.
And there's like something in the middle for everybody. And so
Yeah.
for you, it's creating stories, you know. And for some people, like Tanner Pickleball, for example, is like, all right, it's about instruction, right? Like
Right.
he did this before for like he was doing short form content for real estate and for Twitch gaming, right? So it's like I think that you don't have to be in the bubble of pro pickleball to be successful. You don't have to be an instructor to be successful. You don't have to do funny skits, but it's like that you just use that Venn diagram of like what energizes me, what am I good at, and what could people need, and you'll find something. And I think what is really cool that I think you probably did, and then for me as well, was like a lot of these things don't exist in pickleball yet, so it's hard just to use pickleball as like a landscape to decide what you want to do. So you looked at UFC and brought a piece of UFC into pickleball, right? And so for me, like I looked at like Barstool Sports and The Ringer. So specifically The Ringer. Like I love sports. And if you guys aren't familiar, there's this website company called The Ringer that now basically like owns a ton of sports podcasting. They were bought by Spotify for like $250 million. It's run by Bill Simmons, but there's a ton of like cross between sports and entertainment and pop culture. And I thought, oh, this right here what I see on The Ringer that I listen to every day in my car ride, that I enjoy, that I relate to, does not exist in pickleball. How do I bring it to pickleball? And so that's kind of what I did. And when Thomas had his first call with me, he's like, hey, we want you to do more stuff with the Dink. I said, this is what I want to be. He's like, what's your goals? I was like, I want to be like Bill Simmons. I want to be like Dave Portnoy. I do not need to be the super expert, but I want to have personality when it comes to discussions around the sport.
Yeah.
And I'm going to figure out how to make that happen. You can help me or not, but that's what I want to do.
That's awesome. I love that kind of trajectory that you're on, because I think it's wide open, right? Like there is room for disruption here. You know, you think about professional pickleball, it's been around for less than a decade. Right. So yeah, absolutely. Let's keep diving into your story. I think this can help motivate more creators, more people that necessarily can't go pro or don't want to go pro, but still want to be involved. So like, let's talk about the moment that you decided to go all in. You were working into it. You're having these conversations with Thomas and Zane about joining the podcast. You're starting to see some success with your own social media channels. What was the moment that said, okay, hey, Mrs. Lefty, I'm going to quit my secure job that's paying me well, that's giving me this cush remote setup, and I'm going to go all in on content?
Yeah, well, so luckily for me, and so the one thing is, like as I mentioned, I met my wife at Intuit. She still works at Intuit, and we've done well, so that I had some runway, right? And so the nice thing is I had a support system that helped me, right? And so I knew I wasn't going to be homeless regardless of this working out or not. But once I started, basically there was a moment, and it was kind of after talking to Thomas, after getting back from vacation, and kind of just doing a lot of research, watching a lot of TikTok, a lot of Instagram, and trying to see how to make these things successful, that I decided, hey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post 3 times a day, every day for the next 100 days. And so, like I said, it was July of last year where I decided I was going to go all in. And my goal was just, I'm going to create as much content as humanly possible. And by doing so, I'm going to learn. I'm hopefully going to get views and followers and just build a brand. And as that progresses, I will let kind of that experience kind of mold where I need to go, right? So what's hard is like I think some people like create such a detailed plan of what they want to do, and it doesn't allow them like freedom to learn and grow. And so my only goal was create the content every day, be consistent, and you're gonna go all in on pickleball, right?
Yeah.
So this is July of last year, and people are going to hate you, right? Like people are going to get annoyed. Your friends and family are going to make fun of you. People like Jimmy Miller, who I don't have a problem with, but
We'll get there. We will get there. That's a question.
yeah, he famously would get so frustrated at the fact that I would just produce so much content and how cringe it was and annoying and bad and whatever. And I just thought like, hey, look, I'm learning, right? It's kind of like saying like, hey, you shouldn't go drill your two-handed backhand because it's so ugly, right? Like, and then you use it in a game and it's going to lose you points. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. Like, I'll lose some games, I'll lose some points. It's going to look ugly, but I'm going to figure it out, and eventually it's going to look good, right? And so that was my plan. Was I'm going to do that. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to figure out how to be the best in the space, and then I'll see what opportunities unfold. Like, I'm going to be open to everything, and I'm going to say yes. And that was like the other key thing was like, July 1st, 2025, I said, I'm going to say yes to basically every pickleball opportunity that presents itself, and I'm going to learn, and we're going to figure it out.
That's awesome.
And luckily, my wife was like the most supportive person ever. So that's the other thing. It's like, besides the fact that she is our breadwinner, and she calls me, her house hoe now, like that just, handles all of the family stuff, which has been nice and actually, relatively rewarding and fun. But, she's there to catch me, but she's also there to encourage me. And so I think finding the people that are willing to like build you up is like super huge. And then having as much contact with them as possible is great.
Yeah. Love that. Hearing you describe it kind of made it sound like a multi-level marketing scheme. It's like your friends are going to hate you. Your family's going to distance themselves from you. But at times it can feel like that, right?
It's a cult.
Because people, I think, put themselves in your position and say, I could never do that, right? Like that's too embarrassing for me to do. Like, don't put that on me, right? Like, that's fine for you, but like, don't stop me from doing what I'm doing, right? So I'm, it's good that you overcame kind of whatever head trash would have been there to stop you from doing it. So you made it through the 100 days. You lived up to that. Was there days that you missed? Or like, how were you keeping track of all that?
Yeah, great question. No, I didn't miss any days, and I still have yet to miss a day since July 1st. I post at least every day, and my goal is to try and post like 3 times a day. So are there days that I miss 3 times? Yep. Are there days that I post more than 3 times? Sure. But I figured, like, for me, what's hard is like I'm kind of like an all or nothing guy, and so I always felt like if I miss a day, it'll be detrimental, not just like to the algorithm or my success, but also to me mentally. Like I will have broken a streak, and then I'll probably break it again and again. So it's kind of like that, that extreme diet that's probably not actually healthy for you, like 75 hard, that like program, right? Like I don't necessarily support it because it's like very extreme, but they're like, hey, you don't miss a single day for 75 days and you're going to see some, significant changes. And so that's where I'm at now. I still post every single day. And then, I learned a ton. And it got a lot easier. And now my brain, like the thing is, my brain never really turns off. So sometimes I actually have a hard time sleeping because I'm always thinking. But I've learned how to channel like thoughts that I have into potential videos. And so it's a lot less work now than it was then to create the 3 videos. I'm working way more now because I have to do stuff like, the pod and figuring out who we're talking to. And, I basically part-time produce the pod while I'm also the co-host. And then like I get opportunities like commentating on Pickleball, on Firefight for PPA. But like I still post it 3 times a day if I can. And yeah, that's the rest is history.
That's awesome. One more question, just kind of on this topic, and then we'll move on to some other stuff. But I think you did a wonderful job. There was a video, and this is also something that most people aren't willing to do. But you know, congratulations! You made a post about making your first 10,000 10K month in content creation, and you started to break that down. So for anybody that's, again, looking to get into this space, I think that's one of those things that just like, okay, I want to do it. I'm willing to go all in, but like, how the hell do I make money?
Yeah.
Right. So just talk about that.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, that was like probably the more nerve-wracking video that I've created because I didn't know if it was going to be appreciated or seem like showboaty or anything. But my thought was, hey, like I already know the success that I've had, but I'm going to share a little bit of this to hopefully inspire people. I don't have a course. Like there was like 10 people that posted like, I feel like a course is coming here that we're about to have to pay for. Not the case. And I might do more follow-ups like this, but like I kind of want to sprinkle them in. But anyway, so I create this post that's like, hey, I made 10,000 in the month, last month. And it wasn't normal. I'm not making 10,000 every month, but I wanted to break down what that looked like. And so there are a bunch of ways that you can monetize pickleball or content. And I think the easiest way to start is doing like affiliate marketing, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where a majority of that came from. So I reached out. So this is what I did. So I reached out to a bunch of pickleball brands and I was just like, hey, like, do you want to send me your paddle? If you do, like we can either work and we can do brand stuff. I'm, relatively new, but I'm getting some traction. I can do reviews on your paddle. And if you have like a code, I can share it, however you guys want to work together. Right. I was like, whatever you want, let's try something out, right? Whether it be ads or whether it be user generated content or affiliate marketing, like let's try something, right? And so I reached out to a bunch of different brands. And what actually ended up happening was the most successful brand that I've been a part of is RPM Pickleball, right? And they actually reached out to me.
Shout out to RPM. We are RPM Bros, you and I.
RPM, they're great. They're fantastic. Yes. So, so they reached out when they were launching and they're like, oh, hey, like your content. And I had no idea who they were. They're like, we're gonna have a great paddle. It's gonna be the best paddle on earth. And I kind of like almost like dismissed them. And I was like, I don't know who this is. Great, whatever. I see them about to launch and then I reach back out. I'm like, oh, hey, you remember when you reached out to me and said that you had this cool paddle? Now I see it. Now I see James is the person and Ryan and whatnot. It looks like there's actually some legs.
Why didn't you lead with that, right?
Yeah, exactly. What they'd said was, we have some pros. I can't say who.
Yeah.
And so now that I knew the who, I was like, all right, this sounds awesome, right? So let's try it out. I love the paddle, right? And so this was the thing for me was that I've gotten a bunch of paddles from a bunch of companies, and like I can't just say every paddle is good because one, it's inauthentic, and two, nobody's going to buy from me if I say every single paddle is good, right? And so I find the ones that I really like and I double, triple down on an authentic review. So I created this like review that, I don't know, you got to be a Harry Potter nerd to actually appreciate some of it. But Fabian, have you read Harry Potter or watched Harry Potter at all?
Yes.
Okay. So basically I create this video that's like the RPM Friction Pro should be illegal. And I was like, it's like the Elder Wand of pickleball paddles. And it's basically going to kill somebody. I was like, you can Avada Kedavra somebody with this paddle. It hits so hard and it does everything so well. And I said, it's definitely not a paddle to make friends because it's too good, blah, blah, blah. Right. And so like, I have this like whole thing that's like all Harry Potter related. Anyway, it like kind of takes off. And then a ton of people just start buying this paddle using the code. And it's been like the case for a while. Right. And so that's been a huge help. But like for me, it was finding the things that I really like in pickleball and then sharing them authentically in a way that was not like their brand voice, but my brand voice. So like there's a couple things that work for me really well. Like, so I like the RPM Friction Pro. I like the Aereo Cyclone pickleball paddle a lot, right? Yeah. And so because it's a super satisfying sound, hits the absolute shit out of the ball. Great paddle, right? And so that ends up working out. I like so this is not an ad segment, but like the forward pickleball bags, like they just look cool, right? And so like for me, I'm overly enthusiastic. And so when I like something, it's easy for you to know that I actually really like it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I found that out. So I started doing like affiliate marketing, and that worked wonders, right? So that's one way to start, really, for anybody. But the key thing there is you have to be authentic, you have to show emotion, you have to be enthusiastic, and you can't just like every single thing that comes to you, right? So many people are like, oh, here, check out this carbon paddle, and then check out these socks, and then check out this thing, and I love this thing, and they love everything, right? And so if you love everything, they're never going to know which one is great, right? So pick your battles.
And then they see you using something else, and they're like, hey, wait a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait a minute.
If you see me, I'm like playing with like 3 different paddles. Maybe like I play with RPM, I play with the Aerial Cyclone. Sometimes I play with the Enhance Duo, like paddles that I enjoy hitting, right? And so that worked out well. There's also like you can work with different paddle brands to do user generated content or like white labeling content, right? So like what's cool is you can create, you can work with brands, and especially if you're like really good at editing, you can create like visual ads. Well, if you playing with, let's just say like the Yola Perseus, whatever, right? Hey, here's this paddle. I'm gonna showcase it, unbox it, talk about how good it is, and it doesn't actually even live on your page. It lives on Yola's page, right? So like there's user generated content that people will pay you to do. And so that one's kind of nice because it's less about like, hey, this is my personal stamp, but it's more an actual ad, right? And so people understand what ad reads are. So you can work with brands that way. But once again, for either getting the paddles or doing the ad reads, what's super important is reaching out proactively to these brands versus just waiting for them to come to you. Because there's only probably been like 4 or 5 brands that have ever proactively been like, hey, Nico, we should create content together. And most of it has just been me like saying, hey, this is my portfolio. This is who I am. This is what I can do. Let's try something, easy lift. And if we like it, we'll keep going.
Yeah.
So so affiliate marketing, those ad reads and like white labeling videos works out well. And then there's money from the Dink in terms of doing, podcasting and producing. So for me, it was like a bunch of different revenue streams. And once again, not saying no to them, and then realizing that like you probably don't have all the skills to actually do some of the things that they need, but then you figure out how to do it on the fly, right? Like I was not a podcast producer ever. And they're like, we want you to do co-hosting and part-time producing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll figure it out. Right. So I'll say yes now, and then we'll figure it out. So that's what worked for me. And so now as we move on, there's more opportunities for like, these brand deals. But yeah, I think that there's a ton to do, but I will say almost none of the money comes from actual views, right?
Yeah.
So that's
probably the misconception too, right? Is people think that is where it comes from.
Yeah, like I get like 10 million views a month, maybe like across platforms, and I get maybe like $600 a month, and basically all of it comes from Facebook, which is interesting.
Interesting, yeah.
Wow. And the thing is, 2 things. One is, I think if you want money for views, and my recommendation for anybody starting out that hasn't already is you should also do YouTube content. I don't do YouTube content because I'm a wuss and I'm lazy, I think, but like
that doesn't sound true.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I just like it's easy for me to create like a 30-second video off the top of my head. I just feel like there's so much more when it comes to scripting and storytelling and visuals and whatnot for YouTube that I just like have never really. I think I've created 1 YouTube video ever, but I think that's a big place to go. And also, when it comes to views, like you get paid more for views on YouTube, and it's easier to like have like more intense like brand deals and whatnot. But anyway, so I only do short form content, but it's worked out. Once again, do not rely on the views. You use the views and the engagement to leverage that with other brands that will pay you versus Instagram's not going to pay you. TikTok is not going to pay you.
Yeah.
You get all the money from outside of that. And the
Love it.
last thing I'll mention with that is that what the thing that I hear all the time, like not to toot my own horn, but that like when I talk to brands, they say, "Hey, we love your content. There's so much more engagement on your videos than you have followers, right?" So like I was actually talking to, I think, Enhanced Pickleball. Shout out to them, super fun to work with. And they said like, "Hey, look, we have like 150,000 followers. You have 1/10 of that, but your videos get the same amount of engagement, right?"
Yeah.
And so I think that's the other thing, is thinking about like, if I can create content that's educational or enjoyable, engaging, like that's what I need to do every single time, because the engagement, the likes, the shares, the comments are really what drive the video versus just, can I get somebody to view it?
Right. Right. Because the views they're kind of a vanity metric that at some certain point mean nothing, because if you have those followers, but they're not doing anything, why does it matter? Right.
Exactly. And what's interesting is one thing that I've also always been afraid of, which is weird, is like going viral, right? And so this is a weird thing to say, but like my biggest fear about going viral. So for example, I'll use that video with sharing, how much I made in a month. It got a ton of views, and then I got a ton of followers. And then my fear was, these aren't actual people that care about my normal stuff, right? So sometimes you go viral, you get a ton of followers, but they're no longer people that are engaging with your stuff because they only like that one video. So going viral is not the goal, right? So like it's always nice, but building like a steady community of people that want to come back to whatever it is you're doing. Huge.
That's how I know you're really in it, because your fear is like all about the algorithm right there. You're just like, there's too many new people that aren't actually sitting and watching the video. It's going to throw everything off. But I feel that. I feel that. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. I want to jump into kind of some quicker takes here. So these are some questions that I've had from people coming in. But number one, just how do you deal with the trolls? They're there. They're vocal. I think you guys do a great job of just being kind of like self-deprecating on the podcast and reading some of those out loud. But obviously, that can have an impact and could potentially be like crippling to like want to stop doing it, right? Like, I think that's the goal of what a troll is. It's like, how do I get you to stop, right?
Yeah, 100%. All right. So I don't really naturally, I don't have a lot of problem with this. Like my whole family is relatively like a constant roast, like from my dad to like our entire family lives in a Hispanic household where everybody's making fun of everybody forever. Right. And so like I grew up with relatively thick skin, but a couple things. One is I always think there's nobody that is better than you, more successful at content, better pickleball player that is like trashing your stuff online, right? So like if I post a video that says I'm a 5-0 and I show a 5-0 point and everybody says this is a 3-5 pickleball, if you like take their name and put them in duper, every single one of those people are like 3-5s, right? So they're not as good at pickleball as me. I know that the people that are complaining about my pickleball are not as good at pickleball as me. I know the people that are blasting my content are also not creators, are not successful. Like successful people like tend to build other people up. And so like I find that like, all right, these people are relatively miserable anyway, so why do I care what they have to think? Occasionally I do get frustrated and then I will like put them on blast. Like I don't really have too much of a filter. So when I'm not being self-deprecating and somebody does bother me, I will say something but I don't know. It's just because it's like a little bit fun. I don't let it like fester, but if I need to like shoot them down, for my enjoyment, once a week or whatnot, I will do that. I'm not better than that.
Always got to keep people in their place. So yeah, I'm a fan of that.
But like, I would say, we brought up Jimmy Miller before already. That's like the only time where I was like, this is a little weird, right? Like I was like, this guy has a podcast. This guy's the GM of the California Black Bears and is successful with the content stuff that he does. It's like, why does he care? Why does he hate me? Why does he need to, shit on my content? And so like, that was when I had to like think, I was like, what's happening? Like, I don't want to say like I let it affect me, but I did like, I created like a response video. I thought about like, what am I doing? Do I need to improve the quality? And then I was like, all right, look, I can't care even about Jimmy Miller. Right. And so Yeah. Did he get to me a little bit? Sure. And I also think that at this point, like I've continued to do exactly what I did, and Jimmy's less and less vocal about my stuff, right? He like there was a point in KOTC where every single week my name got brought up. And
Right.
I think I might have mentioned this on the pod with Zane, but like I used to just go in and I would take the YouTube transcript of the KOTC pod and I just searched my name. I just be like Nico. And every single week for 6 weeks, my name was in there, of course. It's like, is Nico going to be a GM of a team because he sucks? Is Nico's content sucks? Is Nico has no prime. I would beat Nico in singles, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, what is happening here? And then eventually I just like, all right, like there's, if he wants to be a hater, that's fine. I meet people in person that are all relatively positive to my face.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen somebody, and this is not an invitation to anybody, but like I go to PPA events, no one's like, you suck,
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, like those people are vocal in the backgrounds. Why do I need to care about them? They don't care about me. So yeah.
Yeah, but there is a difference there, right? Like there is this, like he is a like an established voice in pickleball, so like that commentary is definitely different than some random schmo who is saying that you're not a 5-0 but is actually like a 3-1, right? Like there's a big difference there. So it's interesting. I had the opportunity to talk to him when we were at Worlds last year in Dallas, and I thought, okay, this has got to be a bit, right? He's not actually who he is on the pike. Well, no, he is. Like that's kind of who he is, which is great. I love that he's consistent. But it is, it was interesting that there was just like this beef that kind of came out of nowhere, if you could even call it that, right?
Yeah, it was weird, and it's so funny. It's like also one time I saw when I was in the middle of nowhere, St. George, Utah, like 2 months ago. I'm in an empty Dick's Sporting Goods. And my wife is she's using the restroom. I'm with my son and my daughter, and we're looking for soccer cleats because we're at a soccer tournament. This is like 8 hours away from my house. And who do I see in the empty store but Jimmy Miller? And I was just like, what are the odds? Like, I'm like, I see this guy that freaking has never said a nice thing about me ever in person. And, we shook hands like a gentleman, and then he left. He even said like, I forget what he was going to do. He was going to come back and say, he wanted to take a picture. But he left, and then he thought, we should take a picture. He was going to come back, but then he saw me with my wife who had come out of the restroom, and he's like, this lady probably hates me so much because of all the things I say about his husband. So he got nervous and just left. But the most bizarre experience ever. But no, I mean, I think, to be quite honest, Jimmy has done nothing but help me, even if it is like hard to deal with. Like he brings my name up, and he's a credible source, and people can decide whether or not they like me or not. And what was, speaking of trolls, what was so funny is like 2 weeks later, after Jimmy's like first like roast of me, there's like this video of Chris Cali, sorry not sorry. He's doing a live stream. And I'm like jumping on for the first time because it said something about like, pickleball creators. And I'm like listening to it once again with like my 12-year-old son and my wife. And they're like, here's an example of bad, lazy content. And then I get put on. I'm like, dude, I'm on your live stream right now. He's like, sorry to do this, Nico, but blah, blah, blah. And I was like, it was funny because what he did was so I don't think Chris Cali understands TikTok at all, but there's like this trend, this video, and I posted one where it was like, I'm listening to like Eminem, and I'm like in the car, like acting all hard, and it's like on my way to pickleball to play like 75-year-old Dolores and Ethel, right? Yeah. And got like millions of views, and it got reposted by the kitchen and whoever. And he's like, you see this? And then he's like, check out this video, and it's Sean Munoz, who is Juan Sean Pickleball, another creator. And he's doing something exactly the same. Like it's not word for word, but it's very similar because it was a trend, right? And it was funny because he's like, look, this was posted 112 weeks earlier, and now Nico's doing it himself. And I was just like, one, did you want me to go back 112 weeks on Sean's post to make sure that I didn't copy this specific? Like, how the hell am I supposed to know? I don't know. But, he spent 10 minutes kind of also roasting my content. And it was fun because like my wife is like listening to it, my son, and we're just like, what is happening? I don't know. But you take the good and the bad. So like, my son's like, look, these guys hate you. But then when we're at, the sports bar, some random dude came up to ask to take a picture of you, Nico, and he thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then just yesterday we were so my birthday was like 2 days ago or 3 days ago, and we were having a birthday dinner, and my daughter's like, she's like, I searched your name on TikTok, and there's this random guy it just says like day 3 of trying to get Nico the Lefty to follow me. And she's like, I can't believe that you're big enough that people are they're creating a whole series to get you to follow them. And I was like, hey, like, that's cool. It sounds fun. It's nice. And so while they're the trolls, while they're the people that you have to deal with, like, I think the good outweighs the bad as long as you got the stomach for it.
Yeah. Well, tell your daughter that was me and you never followed me. Just kidding. Okay. Well, you know what? I think some people just get upset at things that they don't understand and they throw shades because they don't like, you know what I mean? Like, you make it seem so easy and maybe the views don't come as easy for them. So, we'll kind of leave that there.
Yeah.
Leah Jansen comes onto the Pickle Pod for what I think is an interview. Turns out it's just a venting session. Talk about that, because in my world, at least in my household, at our gym, at our club, her hot take was talked about so much about people yelling during practice or yelling during rec play. And I don't know how big of an impact that made from that episode that you guys saw, but I think that was the biggest takeaway from people that were listening. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That was I knew what I was getting into. Because like to set that up real quick, like we got her on the pod because in the middle of a match, it's like semifinals against Kate Fahey, she like sees me in the front row of the crowd after like a bad line call and just starts ripping me a new one. She's just yelling at me. So it's like F-bomb laced tirade. Your effing friend Zane is so stupid and he should quit pickleball and this is the dumbest thing ever, and just like for like a solid 20 seconds. And so then after the match, I was just like, you want to come on the pod and tell this to Zane's face? Like, I don't care. And so we got her on. So a wild interview. But yeah, she said basically, bro, it's just rec. Like, why are you yelling? Come on, right? Like, why are you so invested in rec play? And I think that might be, maybe that's a fair take for like a pro. I don't know.
Yeah.
I also think it's a read the room situation, right? Like 100%. If you're excited, show excitement. Like, I think the thing that's important is that like you're authentically yourself. And so like if Anna Bright, I feel like, is someone that would yell come on in every rec point that she ever plays, right? Because that's just who she is. Maybe Leah Jansen's not saying anything. Maybe Kate Fahey is super frustrated every time she's playing too. I don't know. But to me, I was just like, look, you do whatever you want in rec play as long as like you have some kind of manners. And if like people don't like who that is, then like either you find new people or you move around, like you'll figure it out. But I don't think there necessarily needs to be like a police on how you get excited in the middle of rec play. So
yeah. 100%. I think, I personally didn't completely disagree with her take on it. And I think this is just my perspective. I think after the fact, she kind of knew that wasn't a good take because she like double and triple down in the comments for the first 24 hours for anybody that posted anything when you guys posted that clip. I'm like, Jesus, don't you have other things to be doing than like
funny.
Like, if anything, show me you're an amateur without telling me you're an amateur by freaking being in the comments so much. You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness, Leia can't help herself. It's so funny. This is why she like deletes Twitter and social media all the time. But like, I was wondering, I was like, why is this video taking off so much? There's so many comments. I'm like, because half of them are Leia. but like, I appreciate her. That helps us out, and I appreciate that she's like adamant. Like, and it was funny because like. That hot take came because even before we started rolling the episode, she was like explaining that situation that had just happened in rec play. And then we're like, oh, let's talk about this on the pod. Yeah. But
little did she know.
Leia has the, her handbook of how to act. And like, I get it. Like if you're upset or get annoyed by somebody saying that, it's totally fine. Like that's, your prerogative and you can get upset with it as well. But don't expect that everybody is going to be kind of like mellow. And to what she said on the thing was, she's like, look, I've already beaten Ben Johns. Why am I going to yell, come on? I was like, well, none of us have beaten Ben Johns. So,
Nor will we ever get
beat,
the opportunity.
if I beat Fabian or if I beat Rick, like, I'm gonna be excited. I'll probably yell in his face. You know what I mean? He's senior pro. Like, I'm gonna get excited, and we'll show the excitement. Who cares?
Rick will do most of the grunting and the yelling.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, we got a couple more questions. We'll get you out of here. So a couple quick ones. Your most viral video. What is the one that is like blown up the most?
I think the one that people know me the most for is me saying that pickleball is the most fun the first year you play pickleball, and then after that it gets worse. Yeah. So basically, like, my take is, when you play pickleball for the first year, there's no such you're not good enough to be in like private groups. You always play open play. Open play is the most fun version of pickleball. You just show up to the park, you have a chair, you sit there for 8 hours. You have to you're okay waiting between games, and you play. Once you get good, then you care about your duper. Then you want to do tournaments. Then you only can play with 8 people because there's only 8 people at your skill level, and then you have to coordinate games. You can't just show up, and then you get upset when you lose versus just having fun. Like, when I was first playing, like, I was playing against like this 80-year-old guy, Tuck, who just beat my ass. And like, I enjoyed it. I had fun even when losing because I was getting better. Now I'm like at this point where I'm like towards the top. I play with the same 5 people all the time. And when I lose, I get frustrated and I go home and I get upset. So like, I think the first year is the best by far. And I think that there's mental ways that you can fix that. But that's definitely the video that most people, I think, know me for. That, or one other one is the unhinged tip of hitting a nasty Nelson your very first point of a tournament, which I then had to do. Like, it was like kind of a joke, but it also is like, to me, it's like very well thought out. How it, like, successful it is. It's either you hit them and you get the point, or you miss and they're frustrated, or you hit them and they're frustrated. Like, it just puts them on tilt. And then in Newport, I had to do it just to prove that I'm crazy.
That you're about that life.
Yeah, I was about that life. I did it twice. I did it once in the first point of the game against a guy who was deaf, I think, when I felt bad. And then I did it at match point against a guy that already hated me. And it didn't work, but he said that I have no honor anyway. But so he was so upset. I'd never seen anybody so upset. He thought we hooked him earlier, and then immediately I had told my partner, who was Wanshawn Pickleball, I was like, hey, should we nasty this guy to start the match? He's like, no, we'll wait. And then at match point, it's 14-13-1, and he's like, now's a good time. And it was in a game to 15, and tried, didn't like it. But anyway, anybody who's listening, if you nasty on, try to do a nasty Nelson on point 1, it will be successful. You may not make friends, but if the person hates you, it's probably also somebody that you don't want to be friends with. Like, it's still fun. It's pickleball. It's fun. Right, nasties are fun part of the game.
Love it. All right. So you went to BYU. What's the Nico the Lefty dirty soda order?
Oh, okay. I don't, there's not a lot of like, there's like one dirty soda place around here. And when I was there was no such thing as like Sodalicious or Swig when I was there. But I love soda. Like, I drink so much diet soda. It's insane, right? But what I do now is I go to Sonic. And so my Sonic, so I get a Sprite Zero, a Route 44 Sprite Zero, which is like this big, with the blue coconut flavoring, which technically, if you get it normally, it's called ocean water at Sonic, which is just Sprite with blue coconut flavor. Anyway, so I get that, and then at Sonic you can add Nerds candy to your soda. So I get it's a Sprite Zero with blue coconut flavoring, which is like 15 calories, and then there's just a layer of Nerds at the bottom. So you get this like bite, and then you can get the crunch of the Nerds. It adds a little bit of like candy flavoring without it being like pure sugar from like a liter of soda. So that is my go-to from Sonic, and that's a hack that anybody can do, because Sonic is for the most part everywhere, whereas dirty soda is not always available near you.
All right, so be on the lookout for the Nico the Lefty Sonic collab coming soon.
Yes.
And also, speaking of you playing with the same 5 people indoors, you play at a Third Shot Pickleball. Is that right?
I do. Yep. We play at Third Shot Pickleball in Reno.
That's our home club here in Indy.
Yeah, that's we play has been out for like a year and a half now. Great courts. And and the fact that they have Save My Play replay also has been really fantastic. I'm not sure if they have that at your facility, but yeah, like recording your point. Everybody asks like, how do you record your points? I'm like, well, it just records it for me. And I'll tell you, like, I know it's not like the videos you asked me about were my most viral, but the ones that have the most views are all Save My Play points on Facebook. Like I post a video about me playing like nonchalant pickleball, gets like 10 million views every time. But yeah, Third Shot's great. I also coach there, kind of part-time. I used to coach a ton, and then now I have a 1-year-old, so I like coach like 1 or 2 days a week, but also coach pickleball.
Nice. And then this was the question that we got most, was why don't you bend your knees?
Oh my God.
You knew this was coming. You had to know this was coming.
Yeah. You know, I don't bend my knees and I don't move my feet. I don't know. You know, one is I think I'm bending my knees lots of times. Like I'll go into rec play specifically with like this vision of like, I'm going to be athletic. I'm going to bend and I'm going to move. And I get really excited and I think I'm doing it. And then I watch the session back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like a statue.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a combination of just like being old and unathletic. And I'm not flexible at all. Like I can't touch my toes, never could. Like, so like I just naturally not like a squatter kind of person.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but like I also have a really low paddle position, but I'm also very tall. So like I just find that even though I don't bend my knees, my paddle is always in like a really good spot. Like I'm not the best dinker. And I don't have the best soft game all the time, but I have really fast hands. And so I just find like, I just kind of stand there like a statue, unassuming. People think that they can attack me because my paddle is like at my hip, like JW Jansen style, but it doesn't work. And so like my whole game is like invite you to attack me and then I'm going to counter and you're going to lose. So it works out. And I think that if I did bend my knees, I'd probably 1, be a better dinker. 2, I might eventually get back to that 5-1 duper, but I don't know. Eventually it'll happen, but I think I'll lose part of my brand and part of my identity if I ever start bending my knees.
Yeah, lean into it. Well, thank you, Nico. This has been incredible. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Yeah, man, this was great. Where can people follow you? Kind of find out more about Nico the Lefty.
Yeah, I mean, if you just like put Nico the Lefty anywhere that you want, you could put it online. You can go to nicothelefty.com. You can do Nico the Lefty on Instagram, TikTok. You can do it on X. And if you are buying a paddle, you can also put it in a promo code probably anywhere. Just give it a try. And especially if you're buying an RPM paddle or an Aero Sports Cyclone, that helps support me. But yeah, Nico the Lefty everywhere.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And for those of you still listening, make sure to follow This Is Pickleball Podcast on all social media platforms and on YouTube at This Is Pickleball Podcast. Thank you so much. We're out.